camera off. That will give us a better connection with Brazil, and we will not have any issues with the presentations and the connections. We will go through the presentations first. Just to give you an agenda, we'll be starting with a presentation on the programs and services that Ontario provides to Ontario SMEs. And we'll go through the details of the infrastructure export business mission that we are going to be doing with Marcio and with Claudia Kakunaka, who is also connected and is the trade commissioner on the ICT in Brazil. And then Marcio will take over. He will be doing a presentation on doing business in Brazil and all the opportunities, trends, and challenges on the infrastructure sector with a focus on smart cities. And at the end, we will be taking questions. But throughout the process in the presentation, if you want to write a question, you can go into the chat and you can type your questions. And at the end, we'll take over the chat. We'll go through the chat and see and try to answer as many questions as possible. So with this, I'm going to be sharing my screen and I will be starting my presentation. Can anyone confirm if you can see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Right there.
Excellent. So, as I was mentioning to you, I would like to go briefly through the programs and services that we offer in Ontario. And it's not moving. Okay,
I can see
here
your
we go.
mouse.
Yeah, here we go. So at the ministry, we have a number of programs and services that we work with the companies that are interested in exporting to different markets. We have different programs, different services. I'm going to go briefly through each one of them. And first of all, we start with the export preparation webinars. These are webinars that we have been doing for Ontario SMEs that are interested in exporting, that are initiating the process, that they don't know exactly what to do, how to create an export plan and an export strategy plan. So we organize this type of webinars several times a year. We have two colleagues that are dedicated to these webinars. We have the pitch preparation workshop. We have first steps in exporting workshop that is a series of three workshops. And we also have different types of webinars to prepare the companies in order to export, depending on the market also that they want to export to. After that, we have the export business missions. These are missions that we do and that are staff-led. Now, after COVID, we are back to doing missions in person. However, we are still using the hybrid mode. So many times you also will see that we are doing missions virtually. But basically, with these missions, we work very closely with our trade commissioners in market, our colleagues from the federal government, and we want to help you enter the market, lowering the risk. So we will organize a briefing session for you. We will organize a program of B2B meetings with pre-qualified prospects. It can be either distributors, investors, partners, or a buyer. So we have a team within the Europe and Americas. We have a team of 12 individuals that cover Europe and Americas, and we have a team that covers Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And between all of us, we are going to be doing in this fiscal year that actually started on April 1st, we will be delivering 66 missions across the world. So if you are interested in learning in different markets, in different areas, where are we going and what sectors we are doing the missions, you can go into the link of the Ontario Trade Calendar, where you will find all the information about our. And also in that calendar, you will find all the information about the expo preparation webinars. We also have the program for the incoming buyers. This is basically when the trade commissioner or an organization organize a recruitment of buyers to bring them to Ontario to learn about the ecosystem in Ontario. And we participate by organizing one-on-one meetings with Ontario companies. Usually, these programs are linked to a big event that is happening in Toronto, usually in Ontario, usually in Toronto. And like it's the case of Collision that is happening in June, is the case of the ACE23, that is the conference on water and wastewater that is happening in Toronto for the first time this year, and it's also in June. So we will be coordinating these type of events. We also offer market opportunity seminars and workshops such as this one that is on a specific sector in a specific market. But we also organize seminars on, for example, exporting to Latin America or exporting to Europe or to Japan and Korea, et cetera, depending on what we are organizing throughout the year. One-on-one export and marketing consulting. This is our day-to-day. We work with companies on a daily basis. We meet with them. We try to assist them in as many things that we can. We connect them with the markets, with the trade commissioners, with organizations in the market. And finally, we have the Ontario Trade and Investment Offices. These are our TIOs. They are located in key global markets. We have 16 offices across the world. The only office that we have in Latin America, it's located at the Embassy of Canada in Mexico City. And we work very closely with them when the companies are interested in the market entry strategy. They want to meet specifically with them. We will connect them with them, and the TIOs will also attract investment into Ontario. So very briefly, these are the programs and the services that we provide. You can connect with us anytime that you need. And if my presentation moves, I don't know what's happening. So briefly, this is a summary of the process of how we can help you. So when you are ready, your potential exporters, you have the first level. So you have the one-on-one export advisory services that you can get that advice all the way through. And then you have the first steps in exporting series that I mentioned before. And then you have events that we do with our partners, with the federal colleagues here in Ontario, with provincial events, with municipal events that we also do. And then we go into the next steps, and it is get set, and these are new exporters. So we have all these events that you have here. You have the NEFs and the NETSUS, that basically these are two events that we do to export, how to export to the US specifically, and NETSUS is for technology and services to the US. Also, what to do and what not to do at the border when you are crossing the border with the US. And then we have the pitch preparation workshops. We really recommend this one. It's a workshop that we offered, I think we offer them 6 times a year. And it's very important because the companies that are starting to export, they need to sell their company, and they need to their products, the services, their technologies, and they need to prepare on how to sell that product, that service, very fast to a company. So it's a hands-on event, a hands-on workshop that will help you a lot on selling your company. And then I mentioned before the market focus exporter preparation webinars that we offer to different regions of the market. And finally, the last step is you're ready to go. You're ready to go into market. So we have all the export business missions. Sometimes it's a standalone mission, and sometimes we participate in and we have an exhibition at a pavilion within a trade show. So, and then you have the in-market buyer, the incoming delegation. So basically, these are all the services and programs and a summary in one slide that we offer to Ontario companies. And as I mentioned before, you have here the links where you can find all the information on the trade calendar of all the events, domestics and international events. They are on our trade calendar. Through our trade calendars, how you register for the webinars, how you register for the missions or any event that we do, that's how you go in and you register. Under Source from Ontario, you can find all the information about all our events that we have done and that we will be doing, with links to the companies that are participating in those events. And finally, in that same website, you can find all the information about all our offices that we have across the world, all the TIOs. And now I want to talk a little bit about and officially launch our mission that will take place, the Infrastructure Export Business Mission that we are doing in partnership with Global Affairs Canada, with Marcio and with Claudia. This mission will take place on May 20th, 22 to 26. Officially, that's the week. And we will be going to Sao Paulo and Curitiba. This mission will include, and obviously the companies that register for this mission will have a very detailed agenda for the week. But the highlights of this mission include the briefing. We will do a briefing mission when we start the mission on Monday in the morning. We will be doing different presentations where you will learn about the regulatory environment, the threats, the challenges, the opportunities, how to do business in Brazil. Taxes, probably it's important to know about the taxes. So it will be a morning full of information. We will have meetings in Sao Paulo with the infrastructure, the ministry of the state of Sao Paulo. There will be an overview of the projects of the state of Sao Paulo. We will also have a smart cities seminar that it's going to take place at the Canada-Brazil Chamber of Commerce. Meetings will be organized in Campinas, that is kind of a suburb. I shouldn't be saying suburb, but it's a big, very close.
It's a neighborhood town. Would be like almost like Mississauga.
Exactly. And then we will fly to Curitiba, where there will be meetings as well, overview of the projects and discussion of potential collaboration there. And all the companies will have, obviously, the B2B, a customized B2B program for the companies that are participating in this mission. We will be providing ground transportation, not air transportation, but ground transportation in Sao Paulo and in Curitiba. And for those companies that need interpretation, we will be providing the interpretation. There are very limited spaces for this mission. So it will be on a first come, first served basis. The registration, if you are interested in participating in the mission and you want to save a space, please send me an email today, tomorrow. Registration will be closed on April 19th. The registration will be going through the Ontario Trade Calendar, and you can get all the information in there. So hopefully there will be many of you interested in this mission. The people that are participating in this webinar will have priority. But next Tuesday, I will be opening the registration to everyone else. So once it opens to everyone else, is again first come, first serve. And with this, I believe this is my last slide. Yes. Thank you very much. Here's my contact information. And now I will pass it to you, Marcio.
Thank you, Claudia. I will share my screen as well. And let's see if it comes up.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. This is not what I had in mind
Okay.
at all. Mm. Mm. Interesting. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Screen. My apologies for the problems we're having.
We can see your presentation, but not in presentation mode.
Okay. Okay, hold on. That's where it's somehow should not be happen.
Now we can see it with your notes.
Yep, I'm going to move that out. And
Márcio, fala o seu vídeo aí, para ele te ajudar. Ele não está conseguindo. Pode ajudar ele? Está aparecendo os
tá
números.
aparecendo tudo. Hold on just a second. I'm going
Sure.
to ask for help here.
E põe o seu vídeo também.
Okay, so now you can see the presentation.
We can see
Yes,
your
we
presentation.
can
We
see
can
the
see your picture.
Okay, that's it. So this is a very I don't want to we want to have a very sort of generic presentation of Brazil, how based on the fact that we have different companies at different levels. So I'll ask the page of those that already know Brazil well, that you might see some information that you already know. But bear with me, and we'll go it very fast. We'll cover some specific information of the infrastructure market, some basic information also on the more related to the smart cities market. But most of all, we want to sort of cover what is Brazil and some of the issues doing business in Brazil. So Let's see if we can start here. So first of all, my name is Marcio Francesquine. I'm a son of an Italian immigrant. I was born in a small town outside São Paulo. It's a population mostly made of immigrants from Switzerland, with lots of Japanese. I learned to play baseball before I actually walked, and my godfather is a immigrant from Angola. So these are just to show you how complex Brazil can be and how many stereotypes you can have of this market. So, and this is usually the first mistake when doing business in Brazil is to stereotype one Brazil, one Brazilian. Uh, Brazil is literally not just one. There are many countries inside one. The market, the consumer markets are definitely not the same from north to south. Um there are Brazil is among the top 10 economies in the world, produces a number of things, produces a lot of technology, has a very a complex technology ecosystem. So a lot of things that we bring out from Canada, for instance, is not necessarily a new technology, but it's a complementary technology. So you have to keep this perspective in mind when dealing with Brazil. So Brazil, welcome to the inside of Brazil. Hopefully, especially when you are here, you will probably be better relate better, and we hope that this will help you navigate a little bit more of Brazil without a single identity. So first of all, Brazil is a country of extremes. If we could define Brazil, it would be a country of extremes. But obviously, since there is no possibility of using a single word to describe it, we'll go through some aspects of the culture, some aspects of the people, particularities of the way the Brazilian do. So we have over 500 years of history that generate huge social differences, huge cultural differences. First of all, Brazil is made of a country of different origins, so slavery has impacted the way Brazil moves, as it has the as well the original Aboriginal population. Um, One thing about the market here, everything is hype, big. Um, you have to keep in mind that it is a very large country in extension. You have to keep in mind that it has one of the largest population in the world, and you know we have a structure, a government structure, where you have the three levels of government, but we have over 5,000 municipalities, which generate a need for a very customized, if you like, focus on what you want to achieve, where you want to achieve, and definitely, how you're going to achieve your goals in reaching the Brazilian market. You can start by, of course, São Paulo, which is the largest city in Brazil, but often, and sometimes, I would say not often, but sometimes São Paulo is not even your best option to start with and enter the market. You need to put that in dimension in what your objectives and plans are. Just to give a bit more of the dimension and size of it, and to put a little bit more in perspective. There are very few countries in the world with the combination of people, GDP and extension in the world. So I think that should give a little bit more of a perspective in terms of the size. In Latin America, Brazil accounts for pretty much half of the GDP of the region, of the entire continent. So not only Brazil is a continental size country, it actually has the GDP of a continent. And that brings a number of opportunities for, especially for the segment we're talking about, smart cities and infrastructure, but also brings a number of challenges to reach this market. It's certainly not a market that can be ignored from a perspective of business. You may decide not to do business in Brazil, but it's hard to ignore a market with this size and with the level of opportunities that it has. I think there are some interesting aspects about the size of Brazil and the general consideration. I think one way of looking at the various challenges that every challenge brings an opportunity. So Brazil, over the years, because of policies and economics, the private sector has taken over and is today investing more in infrastructure and hence more of the investments in smart cities solutions are coming from the private sector. So one of the challenges that we had, which was public funding for projects in infrastructure and smart cities, is now coming from the private sector. There is an expectation from the industry that investments from the private sector will, the share of that private sector investment will raise to up to 80% of total investments in infrastructure. This allows you to reach companies and partners here that are actually spending the money without going through the maze of public tenders, all the documentation, so on. So when you deal with the private sector, it's always a much better, much easier perspective. Brazil is, as I mentioned, a continent. So in a better context, France, the entire of France fits in the state of Bahia. Rio de Janeiro is actually larger than Denmark, and São Paulo, the state of São Paulo, has the size of UK. So you have to keep that in perspective when you're planning your business and when you offering your solutions in smart cities to a city like São Paulo. 17 million people, huge amount of people. The subway here, for instance, moves about 9 or 10 million people every day. So the challenges are incredible, but that creates lots of opportunities. In terms of competition, to give again some context, who are the companies already active in the smart city space? IBM, Cisco, Siemens, Schneider Electric, General Electric. So you have some large competition that is very well established in Brazil with well-established commercial marketing divisions, well-established even manufacturing, local manufacturing assembly slash assembling operations. But you also have a variety of newcomers that are exploring. So competition is fierce. Market is competitive, but very rewarding. There are, being a country of contrast means that things are not often not very clear when you're doing business. Various aspects of the Brazilian culture will get on the way of how we do business. So again, challenges, but also a number of opportunities. One, we have highlighted here 5 aspects of Brazil that hopefully will uh, help you to understand the way business is run, the business environment itself, and some of the reactions that Brazilians have. One common complaint we often hear from Canadian clients that the pace of business is very slow, and it definitely could be very slow depending on who you're dealing with and so on. But you have to put that in perspective where you are in Brazil and who you're dealing with, what sort of business background and culture that particular person has. One of the first things that you have to think of is the mix um, that we have in Brazil. We like to mix everything. So our croissant is much mega, much bigger, much more elaborate than French croissant, and that's a typical thing of Brazil. We'll change everything. We like to change and tropicalize everything you bring in. So you're bringing your new technology, you're bringing your product. There is a good chance that your potential client, your potential partner will look at your technology and immediately start thinking how he can adapt that to his needs and solutions itself. As a culture, we need to mix, change, create new things, and that is something that moves Brazilians. In that sense, everything here is also bigger, more elaborate. So our sushi, we have a huge background with the Japanese culture. São Paulo is the third largest Japanese city in the world after Tokyo and Nagasaki. But our sushi is made with cream cheese. Our croissants are basically very different, and our hot dogs usually are on steroids. Just to give you a very couple of very easy, obvious examples of how Brazil will change a basic thing. So one of the challenges that culture of changing adaptation brings is that your original plan will be changed. That's a fact. It's not an option. Um, Once you arrive in Brazil and once you find a partner or somebody to work with here, and that's one thing we always strongly recommend, is that you find a reliable partner that can shortcut you in terms of market knowledge, um, regulations, business environment. um, your original plan will be changed. It will be adapted. The opportunity, as we see it, that will probably help you also advance not only in Brazil, but use that creativity to and get the best of it in other markets in the region as well. You will probably see that can also benefit your business somewhere else. We're very informal as a market, as a business environment, even though in São Paulo you might expect a little bit formality in business interactions. We're still informal. We as a culture, as a people, we're very informal. Communications are informal, and as a historian and sociologist in Brazil once said, before you conquer a client, you need to first make a friend. And I don't think we in Brazil and even in São Paulo, you have to go to the length of meeting the family, visiting, your client's family and so on. It's not to that level. It is a bit more business oriented, but the relationship requires definitely that people trust you and see you more as a friend rather than a supplier if you like. These are, I will go very, very fast here, but, and obviously this is available for you. That just shows you how informality ranges across the entire thing. But that brings us to one of the challenges of the sector in general, and that impacts smart cities infrastructure in general. Um, Overall, there is a lack of credit for business in Brazil. The interest rates are very high right now. The offer of credit is very limited. Brazilian companies usually operate on their own money. They don't go to the bank. With a 19% interest rate a month, basically, you want to avoid going to the bank. And so business is actually run on the company's money. That obviously impacts on the ability of local companies, your potential partner, for instance, to import and have a warehouse of equipment to make immediate delivery for clients. It may impact the way he negotiates contracts and payment terms with you. In Brazil, everybody pays in 60, 90 days. Larger clients will ask for 120 days, which means that at the end of the day, you are financing the business, right? Obviously, once you enter a cycle of sales, that is sort of amortized over time, but the fact is that is something to take into consideration when you deal with a Brazilian company. Entrepreneurship is another classic and very strong uh, aspect of Brazil. Um, even even when you're dealing with um, executives, they usually approach your business or approach the discussions from a very original way, a very uh, original uh, approach to how to develop business, and sometimes it actually is aggressive in the sense that they will be looking at they might propose you with a very ambitious uh, entry plans. So you have to understand where that comes from. It's not that they are not based on reality, is that the people are looking at from a very entrepreneurial perspective. I will not dwell too much on that. Obviously, we do have a lot of one of the largest number of women entrepreneurs in Brazil, a lot of them in technology. So we will be talking to, which is a good sign of healthy business environment. You'll be talking to a lot of businesswomen and executives, particularly in the technology side. But from what concerns us in the smart cities, Brazil has a huge number of startups, and when you look at the profile of startups, a lot of them, particularly in cities like São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Curitiba, are looking at smart city solutions, whether it be urban transit, um, health, integration of public services. There is a huge gap in Brazil with integration of services, public service. So a municipality often has different secretaries, different departments. They don't talk to each other. A number of companies are trying to address that. Urban transit is a major challenge across all larger capitals in Brazil. Multimodal solutions, how to integrate various models of transportations from the moment you leave your home to the moment you arrive somewhere else. All that is a concern. Not only we have a lot of startups and we have a lot of technologies, we have good technology, we have a good ecosystem. So we have actually a number of unicorns in the technology sector, and again, across the technology sector, not only smart cities, but it's a healthy sign of a market that is developing. Again, the what we see as a challenge for companies in the smart city arena to come in Brazil is that the peculiarities of the market, because of we have a competitive market, because we have a lot of companies, because we have a distinct cultural approach to the business, that actually may slow your learning curve or your entry market curve. Well, on the other hand, the same issues, the same matters create a number of opportunities to adapt your strategy and use new approaches to the market. So again, always we see a challenge as a great opportunity for our clients. Obviously, there is the Brazilian way, how we look at business, how we develop, and that impacts a lot when we talk about smart cities, smart city solutions. A very common word in Brazil is gambiarra. It's our way of solving problems, which means we get your technology, we will adapt. It's not exactly the best way, but it solves. It actually addresses my immediate problem. I'm not too concerned about 10 years from now. You know, if I can get something to work now for the next 3, 4 years, which is a political mandate, I'm happy. We'll do that. So often when you offer solutions that are long term, that make a lot of sense to think over 10 years, 15 years, you don't see a lot of positive reactions for that because of our short term mentality. But you know, again, we have a number of we're very entrepreneurial. We adapt everything. I'm not going to show this video, but it's a helicopter made of old carcass and parts of a car. Not only the guy was able to make a helicopter, he learned to fly it. So keep this in mind when dealing with Brazilians. There is a lot of creativity involved in the business, in the way you approach your business, and the way you sell your technology as well. We always will try to find a shortcut. We Brazilians in general will try to find a shortcut, a way to speed the process, reduce bureaucracy, and so on. And this is not bad. We're not talking about corruption here. Corruption is something that you hear about, and it's across the market, of course, not only Brazil, but in the region, in the world. You don't have to live with corruption. It's a choice, and our recommendation is never accept it, anything that is not in the books. That may create some difficulties in some areas, particularly at municipal levels, I would say. But on the other hand, the jeitinho, the shortcut, the way to adapt, the way to find new approaches is something that we strongly recommend that you use it on your favor. Obviously, if we could make Brazil a film, it would be a comedy. We love humor, and again, I'm the reason why I mentioned this is because that also impacts the way you do business. That also impacts the way you relate to your business clients in Brazil. The way you impact on people's perception of your company and yourself. So we make fun of everything: soccer, national heroes. Anything is good enough uh, to have a good laugh. So even in cases of extreme serious negotiations, if you can use humor, you will captivate clients in your own unique way, and that is very positive if you're doing business here. And that may actually set you apart from the guy next door. So we definitely would suggest you explore it. Um, there's a quick summary there. I'm not going there now. Again, you will have access to that presentation later. Just some additional comments. There are many countries within Brazil. From north to south, the approaches, the requirements, the differences in technology, the differences in the infrastructure will also impact how you do business, how you sell. So if you are, and again, this mission will go to three different cities: São Paulo, Campinas, and Curitiba. São Paulo is the largest city in Latin America, 17 million people. The city of São Paulo has the third largest budget in the region after the Brazilian federal government and the state of São Paulo itself. And so it is a incredible rich and well-developed ecosystem for technology. So when you're offering smart city solutions, the infrastructure base is there. They already have solutions. They already working on. They might already be looking at solutions beyond what you're offering. If you go to Campinas, same thing. It's the third largest city in the state of São Paulo. Um, well-developed technology infrastructure base, very good universities. So you have a base where you can start with. Curitiba as well, first smart city in Brazil, if you like, from a urban transit perspective. Very well developed academic environment, ecosystem, and so on. Interesting enough, for instance, the difference between São Paulo and Curitiba. São Paulo, because it's a hub and has a number of smaller municipalities around it. Usually, technology implemented in São Paulo spreads out to these neighboring uh, cities and municipalities. And so the entire region benefits from whatever you do in São Paulo. That's not particularly true, for instance, in Curitiba, which has, as I said, a tradition of adapting smart solutions, but that is not translated into expanding into neighboring municipalities. And again, that could be an opportunity to be explored once you look at business strategy. Uh, we have a huge consumer market in the world. How that impacts the smart city segment. Brazilians are incredibly demanding of new technologies. They are incredibly demanding of solutions that are used somewhere else. In fact, it's interesting enough. If you talk to somebody in São Paulo, they want to know what is the solution for urban transit in Toronto, but not in Bahia. They consider that if we're going to compare, let's compare with the best, and who's the best in the scene. If it's Toronto, we want to be we want to look at Toronto, the solutions they have in Ontario, in Toronto, in the city, and that's what we think it'll be good. I don't want to compare with somebody that has maybe a similar economy or a similar ecosystem. we want to compare. And that can be used, and we do use a lot of that card when talking to the Brazilian industry, to Brazilian governments. We often use the card of bringing the Canadian smart cities technologies and solutions, and compare with Brazilians. Maybe often we can find common ground that will allow for some technical institutional exchange. But once we establish that, we'll bring you guys business into play, so you can offer your solutions. That's exactly how we're gonna approach the state of São Paulo, the city of São Paulo, city of Curitiba and Campinas, is say, Canada is a leader in smart city in the world, in smart city solutions. We are bringing companies that are leaders in their own segments, and we would like to essentially start a discussion on how Canada and these companies can help you update your smart city projects, your smart city environment. So that's a little bit of the approach we take, considering all the strong. One thing to say, that is also something that often comes up with discussions with Canadian clients. Brazil has a safe legal environment, so your IP is protected. The contracts are respected, even though the legal system may be slower than in Canada in terms of solutions. The legal system is very similar to those in G7 countries. And so any contract, if you do the due diligence, if you have and we strongly recommend you work with a local lawyer, your contracts will be respected, and you have legal protection. Just something that often comes up, and I think it's worth pointing out. Technology. We talk smart cities, we talk technology. Brazil is a leader in the incorporation of new technologies. It actually ranks the 10th in the world in terms of incorporation of technology. In Latin America, the country is a leader with 40% of the total volume invested in technology. 45.5 billion dollars. The second and third ranked in that same comparison, Mexico and Colombia, they have a 20 and 90% participation, respectively. So the incorporation of new technologies is something that you can count on when you bring your solutions. You can count that people are looking for it. They have to understand. They have to understand their gains. They have to understand where your technology fits in their projects. And sometimes you have to show them. But that technology will be incorporated is a given. Now, there is a disparity between levels of technology infrastructure amongst the countries. So as I said, there are many different countries within Brazil, and different technical capacities, different financial capacities that you have to take into consideration when developing your business plan in this market. From a marketing perspective, social media, internet, Brazilians are very accessible today. So it's much easier to maintain a relationship with your potential buyer, with your potential partner. It's much easier to market yourself, to position yourself in the market. The same social media tools used for marketing in Canada will be effective here, based on the fact that the language, the communication has to be adapted. I'll just jump up. One example of how technology is incorporated in Brazil, and I think this is something that is very substantial in terms of how Brazilians approach technology and what they expect from technologies. Pix is a instant digital money transfer that was implemented actually a couple of years ago. It now accounts for about 70% of all money transactions in Brazil. You transfer money on your cell phone. It's an immediate transfer. It's you get the money, your payment or whatever within seconds. So people actually are paying for taxi rides, ice cream, whatever it is. Um, One of the concerns the government had when they implemented it was that the lower income population would find it hard to use or not adapted or adopted, but that has proven completely wrong. As I mentioned, most of the lower income population, in fact, don't even use money anymore, currency. They pay 100% of everything by Pix. That shows you how much Brazilians love new technologies. Brazilians actually look for new technology when it comes to make their lives easier, and that is particularly true on the approach how city officials and companies approach new technologies. Will that be a difference? Will that show help me position my company in Brazil with a differential? Will that solution, if I'm a public official, will that solution really give an edge to the population, so on? So prices is still a key driver, but technology, the results that your technology brings, your solution brings, is ever increasing important. I'm not going to go too much on the cultural aspects of the difference here. Um, we have within our major cities. You also have to keep that in mind. Um, you have very interesting peculiarities of Brazil. For instance, if you're looking, in the northeast of Brazil, essentially it's 355 days of sun, and that impacts a lot of the solutions that the city officials look in terms of smart cities. It's a very touristic area, but that has a huge incidence of sunlight, and so pretty much every solution they have there must include some sort of solar panels and so on. It's actually fun how that, when you're in São Paulo, sun panels and solar panels are not, they don't come up too much, but in a city like Natal, it's part of their life. Um, if you want to visit the largest urban jungle in the world, it's actually in Rio de Janeiro. So that also impacts a little bit of how the entire city sees um, business. Um, South of Brazil, if you don't like beach, we have snow. There are a few things we haven't really managed yet in terms of differences in Brazil. We hardly know how to do snowman, but we're learning. So get ready there's always an opportunity to transfer technology there. And of course, there are the diversity of cultural religion, so on, that for Canadians are also very common. So that's something, one advantage that Canadians have over their competitors is that you have a much natural integration with the Brazilian diversity. In fact, I would say that if we, look at Brazilians and Canadians, we have more similarities, culturally speaking, the difference. And you should use that as much as possible to your advantage. Brazilians are, one thing that often actually slow business discussions is the use of stereotypes. Brazilians don't particularly like to be stereotyped. You know, people in Rio are not beach buns. People in São Paulo are not necessarily workaholics. In the Northeast, they're not always in the beach playing and so on. So be careful how you voice and how you vision the Brazilian your Brazilian interlocutor. So this is I will stop here. Thank you for the patience. I hope we have some time for more questions and answers. But certainly, when you are in Brazil with the mission, we are going into a whole lot more details in terms of regulatory aspects. Brazil is a highly regulated country, so before anything, you should have a good base of what impacts you, and we'll customize once we know which companies are coming, we'll customize that briefing for you. We are also going to bring industry leaders and mentors from the various segments you work with, so you can actually talk to people that may not necessarily to the business, but people that will also be able to give you some very customized tips on your particular segment and your particular area of business. So this is just a very superficial presentation that I hope will give you a little taste of Brazil and get you on board of this mission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcio. That was very interesting, very thorough. I think it gave us a good overview of Brazil. I would like to open the floor for questions. I know that there have been a few coming back. There's a question here that I have from Steve asking, does Sao Paulo have new roads, tunnels, or large construction projects planned in 23-24?
Jack, the recently elected governor of São Paulo is the former Minister of Infrastructure of the federal government. He was elected in a platform of renewing and modernizing the infrastructure of the state. There is a very aggressive program of new road concessions, which will bring a number of hopefully a number of new players in the market. There is a aggressive program to renew the access roads, for instance, to the both south and north coast of the state, which has a huge number of tunnels and so on. We don't have the details of their plans yet because they took over in January as a government. So we're still waiting to see what the new roads and new tunnels, what expansion will be. We know there will be a lot of modernization renewal, but we're not sure what will be the expansion. There is a project that they want to take out of the paper that encircles the city of São Paulo. So a huge highway that encircles the entire capital to avoid truck traffic in town in rush hours and so on. That will include tunnels, bridges, artwork in general. Lots of integrations in terms of highway technologies, tolls, and so on. So yes, in summary, yes, there will be. We don't know exactly the extension yet, but yes, there will be. And in fact, if you come, you will be meeting with the guy that is planning that.
Marcio, I have another question from Monique. She's asking up how are the opportunities for passive house projects in Brazil? Are any estates focusing on housing projects, or are there opportunities more urban related?
Housing projects are actually it's an interesting discussion right now. Obviously, the government has an aggressive, both the city of São Paulo and the state of São Paulo have very aggressive popular housing projects, low income and so on, and that will continue. Curitiba also has, Campinas has a very distinct program. What I find interesting to explore at this point is that some of the smart neighborhoods that are being planned and created in São Paulo, and we have about four large projects in São Paulo alone. It's a private sector driven stuff. They have the land, and instead of just doing, you know, higher income housing projects, what they're doing is they're developing full smart neighborhoods. That includes all the urban planning. In fact, we have one Canadian company that we have introduced here. So they do the urban planning that includes shops, high-income housing, low-income housings, all the transit and everything. So yes, there are a number of opportunities that you can explore out of the simple, government-related low-income housing. And to give another example on the housing thing, I live downtown São Paulo, very business area. In the block where I live in a house, incidentally, but in the block where I live, there are 11 new buildings being in construction right now. So it's a huge construction boom right now. There is a huge housing deficit across the board. Of course, middle income and lower income more, but yeah, housing is a major issue, not only in São Paulo, but across Brazil at this point.
Thank you, Marcio. Is there any other question? I just want to share with you that the presentations will be sent to all of you, and including the recording. We will send also the recording to all of you. So I believe I don't see any additional questions. So
here you are.
Oh, sorry,
Janet.
there's another one from Janet. Janet is in the construction sector, specifically a distributor of cost-effective insulation products. How will I be able to connect with companies there?
One of the sectors that is actually looking for ways to reduce cost, reduce construction lead time is the engineering construction. Brazil still uses very antiquate or old technologies for various reasons. There is a discussion about the culture of the construction sector, but in reality, it's a cost effective thing. If you can show how much gain a construction company will have, or whoever owns the building will have in the construction itself, reducing construction lead time as well as in the maintenance and so on, you have a market. What if you join the mission? What we do is link you up with construction companies that are active in the sector of priority for you, industrial, residential, whatever. We'll link you up with potential distributors that are dealing with these companies and selling new different technologies. We'll also link you up, of course, with some of the city officials involved in housing projects that eventually it's sort of a more institutional thing. But we definitely, I think the two segments I would like to link you up is the construction companies itself and companies selling to the segment. Perfect.
Thank you. There's There's Enrique is typing a question, but I don't see it yet. I think he's in the process of typing.
It's a secret question.
Yeah.
I'll give a secret answer to Enrique. No comments.
Okay, he's asking, how can we how can we revise what are the taxes on our own products, and if we can be connected with an import exporter broker?
Listen, as soon as if you want to send Claudia or me directly the HS codes for your products, we'd be more than glad to have a first crack and tell you what the import taxes are, all the taxes, and we'll be more than glad to also link you up with a actually a freight forwarder custom broker based in Toronto that can give you a bit more details on freight costs and so on, and give you that little extra mile information on how much it costs you to get your product in the market. That can be, we can do it right now. You can send it right away. You don't have to wait for the mission. But I hope to see you in the mission.
And finally, the last question, because we had gone over time already. Steve is asking, does Sao Paulo have local steel mills, rebar, etc.?
I was afraid you're gonna ask that, Steve. When we started, I didn't have time to to check. We still have steel mill. Rebar is not something that you see still a lot in Brazil. We have seen some demand and some work done in the south of Brazil. In fact, Curitiba. I can give you a whole lot more information if you give me a couple of days. I will give you more details on the market, but rebar is not something that is super popular at this point. And my guess is that because people don't know how to use it, it's a little bit of the the wood housing. We don't know how to use, so we don't use, and because we don't use, we don't expand the market. But I'll get you a very short sort of market overview on rebars as well.
Okay. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you that have joined us today. Marcio, Claudia, Anna, Eliani, all of you, thank you so much for all your work that you are doing in the background. And for those of you, I want to mention it again, those of you who are interested in participating in the mission, please send me an email and I will provide you with all the information and the link for the registration. The sooner, the better. And because the sooner that you register, the sooner that we can start working with you, developing your own agenda, developing your meetings. So
keep in mind that a lot of the program is customized for the profile of the mission. So the sooner we know who's coming, we can start actually looking at very specific meetings, very customized programs.
Exactly. So thank you very much to everyone. Have a wonderful day and looking forward to work with all of you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.